Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tokyo Recruiters / Life After Recruitment. I'm your host, Levi. Today's guest is Axel. You may have seen him on LinkedIn. My first introduction to Axel was actually a LinkedIn message that he sent me wanting to connect and have a discussion. And at first I was like, who is this guy? What does he want? But after speaking with him, I realized that he just had the best intentions. He just wanted to be there to support a new creator. And I really see him as a central person in this whole LinkedIn creative community, someone who is constantly innovating and trying new things. And after speaking with him on this podcast, I also got a different perspective, and maybe you'll get that too. I think it's hard for some people's personalities to come through via their content, but in this podcast, you really get to see the other side of who Axel is. You get to see the kind of rags to riches story. So his journey of going from someone who's getting doors slammed in his face, getting rejected as a salesperson, to building this successful company and doing it his own way. So this is going to be an interesting podcast for recruiters who are wondering, what else can I do outside of the pure agency model? Because he has some really interesting ideas. So I encourage you to listen to it, also to connect with Axel and to check out Innohyve, his company. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did, and have a nice rest of your day. Thank you. All right, Axel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. You've been very supportive of this journey so far, and you're very well connected. You're someone maybe that's a super connector in the industry. But I'm curious to hear what was your origin story? What was the thing that brought you into recruitment originally?
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm supporting you because we started the podcast ourselves recently, and it's a lot of learning. So I enjoy learning with people at the same time. So pleasure to be here. I guess my journey in recruitment, so I'm from Belgium originally. I left my country about 10 years ago, and I went to Canada first for about a year to study English. I got a job there in sales, and from Canada I went to Australia. I met my wife, Japanese wife, in Canada. And her visa expired in Canada, so we were like, okay, where do we go? Do we break up? Do we find something else to do? And we ended up going to Australia, no strategy at all, just searched for an easy visa application. Australia popped up. So I think it took us a week to get to Australia. In Australia, I got into sales, direct sales, commission only, and door to door.
Wow.
Knocking on doors for 2 years, 3 years and a half, 2 years and a half, 3 years roughly. And I never worked for a base salary, so it was only commission, you don't sell, you don't eat kind of mentality. And then I came to Japan. I proposed to my wife. Her family said no initially. They were like, we will prefer you to at least come to Japan, learn the culture, learn the language. So I came to Japan, and arriving in Japan, it was like, well, English teaching or recruitment, I guess. And
Sorry, can we just pause for a second? So you're knocking on doors as a salesman and you're getting told no constantly, and then you've overcome this and you're decently successful there.
I mean, it took me a while. I think I didn't make a single sale for the first 3 months, to the point where even my wife was like, do you really think sales is for you? that really hurt me, man. That really got me. But then I remember making that one sale and started to analyze it so deeply. And I asked that person who bought from me. I was selling, I did two things. I sold phone plans with a mobile phone with it. And I sold after that door-to-door solar panels. And I just remember with the phone plan, I just asked, why did you actually talk to me? Why did you buy? And I started just going super deep into it. And then I just start asking that same person, do you know anyone who will buy for the same reasons? And they start bringing people in, and I just repeat that process all day long. And it went insane. I went from 0 sales for 3 months to top salesman in I don't know, in 2-3 months. It was insane. And I didn't change anything really. I was just being more and more, getting better at finding a buyer. Not necessarily better salesman, but just better at finding a buyer, kind of.
It sounds like you were more curious, maybe as well. About the needs and who would
Yeah.
have those needs. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. And
Yeah.
kudos to you for not giving up after those 3 months. That's like,
Yeah.
it's tough to do. And
I
then,
think my blessing in
yeah.
not giving up is I have no choice. Like, I don't have a degree. I don't speak really well the language, and there was no other jobs out there for me. So I, yeah. It's
Do or
like,
die.
yeah, exactly. And I'm
Wow.
really blessed to have that kind of situation in my life. Yeah.
Because sounds like it pushes you.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
And then the next thing you mentioned, again, kind of offhand, but you moved to Japan and you proposed to your now wife, and her parents said no. They said no, you cannot marry our daughter.
Yeah, more or less.
So the
That's
door's
pretty much
shut
the
in your
message.
face, and what happened next with that?
I just, it's a while. It's like 6 years ago now, I think. But I remember just inviting the whole family to some izakaya and explaining why I was pretty serious about the whole thing. And I just remember my mother-in-law showing up with a bunch of questions, like, to see how serious I was. And in the end, I was just like, hey, look, I can talk all night about my plans, but well, it's not gonna really move forward, right? So I was like, how about this? I drop my whole life in Australia and I come to Japan in a month, and I'll figure things out on the spot, and that will give you guys a sense of how serious I am. I was pretty drunk. Like, it sounds like I was very confident, but I was also pretty drunk. And they were like, okay, let's do this. And that's it. Right? It took us 2 weeks to get to Japan, and I knew nobody, and I was depressed for the first month when I arrived in Japan because it was not speaking the language. Like, I'm one of those guys who arrived here without even knowing the existence of kanji, or like I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know a single word of Japanese, and I was very confident that I could learn the language because I studied English pretty fast. But it was painful when I arrived here. It was really painful, and I looked into my options. I remember applying for jobs like distributing flyers in the streets, and like I just took any job. I sold a package as a photograph to someone to take photos of their wedding, and I had never done anything like that. I bought the first camera through the money that they gave me for the contract.
Oh my
And so
God.
I was just selling everything that I could think of,
Whoa.
and I met a lot of English teachers, and I started selling their courses. So I was going to Starbucks and looking at what people were reading in Starbucks, and like if it was English, I was like, hey, are you interested? And just grinding, and I did that. And it got pretty successful at some point, where I started having more and more teachers selling their courses. And then I met recruiters who sold me the dream, right? Like, they were like, hey, recruitment is great. And I was like, all right, well, sign me up. And I got the job like after I failed one interview. I remember going to Michael Page, and they rejected me because I was all, I want to help people and this and that. And they were like, yeah, you're not aggressive enough. And then the next interview I had with Enroll was like, I want to make a crap load of money very quickly. And they hired me on the spot.
Boom.
Yeah, hired.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I got into recruitment.
Which one was, yeah, I guess that one, maybe they were both true. One's maybe not more true than the other, but one of them resonated better with the company, which is great.
Yeah.
And since joining, I guess you were in for how long, and then you started your own company?
Yeah, I did N-World for about a bit less than a year, I think 10 months or something. Learned the job, and I learned very quickly to ask what people didn't like to do. So I spent my days asking people what do you not like to do, and everyone was always saying BD and finding clients. So after a month, I started signing clients myself and really focusing only on that. Then I studied one of the top billers working in the market that I could work on myself. And after 10 months, I left and I went to S3, where I met with Alexander Jenner. I met with Chris Riley, and
Nice.
yeah, S3 was still small. I think around 50 people maybe, or a little bit less than that. But nobody was doing robotics and AI, so I was like, hey, I want to do this, and if I don't bill, you can fire me after a few months, but I'm pretty confident it's gonna work because I saw someone doing it in my previous company. They gave me all the freedom I needed. Like, that was insane because I was, I think, associate consultant or consultant, so very junior guy, pretty cocky as well, like. And they just left me alone, and I built the market very quickly, start billing, and it went really, really well. Stayed there for about 2 years and a half. And last November, I think I told the CEO of S3 like, hey, I don't really need to stay here anymore. I want to do something on my own, and yeah, thank you. And I mean, we're still in good terms, and that's how it started. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And then you decided to start Innohyve. And can you tell us a little bit about what the vision behind Innohyve is?
Yeah, I think our vision is to really develop a community of people to which we are close with, and get to a point where everybody knows really well how connected we are, and if they want help, they shall come to us. Like, I don't want to pitch jobs. I really don't like to pitch jobs. I don't feel competent or confident to do it. But I feel like if we have that group of people who truly know who we are and what we represent, and we can, I guess, empower people through our networks, somehow we should be able to monetize that. And so far it's been really good. My co-founder, he's more from a music background. He used to run events in the music industry, so no recruitment background whatsoever. He's an amazing salesman without really knowing that he is. People really gravitate around him. And yeah, we do events every 2 weeks. We try to constantly, I guess, interconnect people that we know, and it does benefit us, right? Because that network becomes really, really tight at some point. And so I guess that's the vision. But it keeps changing, to be fair with you. So yeah.
Yeah. So what area specifically is it for AI and robotics still, or?
Yeah, we are very niche in terms of we focus only on robotics and AI startups. We do a bit of fintech as well right now, because I'm just curiosity in the space myself. But startups only. So we don't really work with big companies. Mostly companies who recently raised money and need to ramp up. And the earlier the better for us. That's really what we're looking for.
Excellent. And I guess, what do you think is the main difference, I guess, for you or your recruitment style that kind of sets Innohyve apart?
Yeah, I think regardless of having a job, I'm gonna be happy to talk, and regardless of having a job, I will connect you with people. Like, I'm very obsessed with the fact that after a call, someone shall be like, "Wow, this was a useful call." And I'm very obsessed with it myself. Like, there shall not be wasted energy. So if I meet someone, I will be able to invite them to an event. I'll be able to connect them to someone, and I feel kind of useful. And I have that mentality with my co-founder as well, where it's all about just keep connecting people and empower them through your network. Because there's one differentiator between what I do, I guess, and most people out there as recruiters. Like, I really love it, but I really love to be useful to people and be strategic about it. So yeah, there's nothing really fancy. I think we're gonna move more and more towards RPO models, where we get a high commitment from our clients, and we give the same commitment in terms of their growth, not just recruitment, but you see, we do the podcast. We want to be useful, right? We want those companies that are not known to be known. So yeah, more like a growth partner than just a job filler, so to speak.
So that's maybe the grand vision at this point, at least, is to move in that direction as a growth partner, and everything that entails.
I think the goal will be to be like a hybrid company between marketing and recruitment. Like, startups coming to us with no presence in the market, and we're really able to very quickly make them known in the market, and so they can also save a lot of recruitment fees and long term, and But yeah, again, I don't know much what I'm talking about, man. I'm just starting, so.
No, we'll see. We'll have another podcast episode in a couple of years from now, and we'll see how far we've come.
Exactly.
But with your attitude and what I really appreciate, I mean, the not giving up and the grit is one thing that's amazing, and something that I think all the top people in the industry have to have. But beyond that as well, you're just a nice person, and like you said, you like to be connecting people and helpful. You've done a lot for me already in terms of the connections, so I can definitely speak from experience that you are someone who's really good at this. I think that's where we're going as a society. I mean, maybe I'm idealistic with it, but it feels like the more that you help other people these days, the more it's coming back, and you don't even have to expect anything in return and have that transactional style. It's just about, I want to see you succeed, and I want to succeed too, but I'll help you however I can. And then it just kind of comes around. And LinkedIn is kind of a beautiful ecosystem in that way too. I know you've been using in that way. But
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
LinkedIn, I mean, just to go on LinkedIn, like LinkedIn changed
Mm.
my life. It's insane. Like I can't recommend it enough to people.
Hmm.
Um,
How
I,
so?
yeah, I mean, I think the way it started for me was like obviously with recruitment, but I'm just obsessed with connecting with people to the point I'll put my own KPIs, and I really enjoy learning like how will people respond to me? Why will they respond? And I will ask those questions to people all the time, and I think it's something that everyone should do
Mm.
because there's no reason for me to be here leading a company in Japan where I don't speak the language. I don't have a degree. There's literally nothing special about me actually, and somehow all those things are happening, and it's just because I'm becoming very, very good at surrounding myself with very smart people, or way smarter than myself.
Hmm.
And I think that's the only skill to really develop with LinkedIn. It's
Hmm.
just you gotta do it. It's just a muscle that everyone should develop.
Definitely. Has it changed how you are interacting with candidates and clients? Like, do you get inbound reach outs from this at this point, or not so much yet?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I don't try anymore really when it comes to recruitment. Like I don't really want to convince people to work with me, or they should do it because they want to. And there's often time
Hmm.
one of the first questions I will ask candidates is like, do you actually need an agent support? Like, do you need me to help you? Because I don't want to feel like I'm in the way. Do you just want me to connect you by email? Like, I will always ask those questions
Wow.
because, yeah, like I worked with a lot of people who didn't see value in what I was doing, and I was like, hey, fair enough. If you don't see it, I don't really want to spend energy in convincing you on it.
Hmm.
In terms of inbounds, we made I think close to 20 placements since January through Innohyve.
Wow.
I haven't sourced a single person like myself. It's just people coming to the events or reaching out to us or
Wow.
referrals. Yeah, yeah, no. So it really
That's
does
huge.
work. Yeah, I think the tricky part is if you try to replicate this in a bigger agency, is you're always kind of you have to specialize in certain positions and stuff. And but we
Mm-hmm.
can place whatever, we can do whatever we want with the fees and stuff. So the inbound is, I guess, yeah, easier
Mm-hmm.
to manage in that sense. Yeah.
That's brilliant. How long have you been at it doing the events and everything? Has it been built up over a long time of doing content and events, or is this just something recent and
We
already seeing
started the
results?
first event last year, November, I think, in a
Mm-hmm.
coffee shop with like 7 people or something, with not knowing what we were getting into.
Uh-huh.
I just remember sitting down with one as my partner, and I was like, "Hey, let's do those events." And he's like, "Oh, well, let's prepare." I'm like, "Prepare what? Just invite people and find a place, and just ask what people want." And we've been keep grinding now, and I think each event brings in around 30 people usually. We've been struggling these days a little bit more because we were very busy with the podcast.
Mm.
But in general, yeah, it's like just getting better at it every time. And ask people
Mm-hmm.
what they want and
Mm-hmm.
be very critical with our own work. I think is
Mm.
what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you have this attitude of always improving, like give me the feedback.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So just
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
improving like that. You're gonna be good at some point, clearly.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there's no way around it. It's
Yeah,
like
if you can
exactly.
implement it. I think the whole model that you just talked about and what you said was really brave as well. With the if you don't see value in what I'm doing as a candidate, I'm not here to convince you.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people, as recruiters, I know I've seen it before, they're like almost begging the candidates to work with them. They might
Yeah.
have a connection somehow and they'll get disappointed. Oh, the candidate went direct. And that's a huge disappointment. It's like a big deal for everyone, but they already knew the client, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Their best
it's
friend is like the hiring manager. Like
yeah,
just
I mean
go.
sometimes the candidates I've seen it with the Japanese ones especially. Sometimes the client knows the candidates personally, and then they still use a recruiter, and they charge some ridiculous fees as well. Like I have a colleague that was doing this as a business model. He was just ask them, okay, who do you want? Who are you friends with? And I'm kind of like sitting on the side, like, wow, this doesn't seem like it's adding that much value. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
guess it's a Japanese cultural thing, and so some
Yeah.
candidates do prefer that, and maybe having that buffer can help you if you are negotiating salary or if you don't end up taking the job and you
Yeah.
you want some kind of way to maintain that relationship, but
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
general, I think it's the opposite of what people are
Yeah, and I think you're
experiencing.
coming from what, banking finance, right?
Yeah, I was banking. My colleague was in consulting, but
Okay, but like those
yeah.
are like maybe smaller industries, less big players in the market, and like people are maybe a little bit more
Hmm.
scared to approach directly. I'm not sure. Like maybe that's one.
No, I mean that was consulting. I would say
Okay.
is it was more domestic, and
Okay.
that's
Okay.
why it was like that. In finance, a lot of people know everyone, right? There's
Right.
very close connections a lot of the time, and so it would be sometimes convincing the candidates to work with us. Um, but I think, yeah,
Mm.
if you're leaving money on the table is what some recruiters would say if you're saying, "Oh, I'll step out of the way and just
Yeah.
introduce you via email." But what has led you to that conclusion, and is it actually paying off in terms of business? Does it make sense business wise?
Yeah. The main, I think the big difference between me and a lot of recruiters out there is I'm very diversified in my income. So I don't just do recruitment.
Mm.
So I'm not emotionally attached too much to one placement.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been very obsessed. I still am. Like I look for so many different ways to make money because I don't want to be like, oh my god, I have such a shitty day because that person didn't sign the offer and
Mm.
now my life is crap. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't want to be in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more and more into that situation. So I care less and less. And I think that's the funny thing is that I close probably 99% of my deals at this point because I will almost push people to quit their interview process after the first round. I will
Mm.
really be pushy. Like, I'll be like, do you really want to go to the second round? Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings by quitting. You're not going to hurt
Yeah.
anyone's feelings, like,
Yeah. This
and
doesn't
I'm
make
just,
sense because you've just
yeah,
told me you want this and it doesn't have this.
yeah, right. Like, it's
Mm.
like, I will be like, hey, do you just do this to practice your interview skills? Because if that's what it
Mm.
is, like, I can help you to do that in a more efficient way. And like, yeah, I'm really, really pushy with people, like even before the
Mm.
final interview, I'll be like, hey, we'll just assume that you get the final interview and you will get an offer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it worth it? Like, do we have to go through the paperwork or are you going to go
Hmm.
for the other one? And
So
those are
you're,
not sales
yeah,
tricks, right? It's just I'm trying to save time for everybody, right?
that's brilliant. And you're really, I guess you're pushy, but you're kind of really pulley. Like you're pulling them away from this
Yeah,
offer, whereas most salespeople would be maybe pushing them to go
yeah,
and let's just see what that offer looks like. Maybe it'll change your mind, or kind of
yeah,
hoping.
yeah,
And
yeah.
how does that work? How does that play out then? What does that do for you?
Like 100% closing rate. That's it. And I probably leave a lot of that concept of leaving money on the table because you're like maybe
Mm.
he will get an offer and maybe he will take it. I'm like I don't have time for this. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely don't want to do it. Like I value my time way too much. And
Mm.
I think
And the
the busier
mental,
you are, the more you value your time probably, right?
yeah. And then
So
kind of the mental energy as well that you're sitting there
yeah,
hoping and you're not working on something else because you're
yeah, no,
thinking
exactly.
maybe this will close and how can I make it close and go out and meet this person and for a coffee or a
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
dinner
yeah,
even
yeah,
spend another Niman. So
yeah, no,
brilliant.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
great advice. I love that. Do you,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, right? In the beginning of my career in recruitment, I was the opposite, right? Where I was getting every offer possible. I was desperate. Like, I was thinking about it on the weekend. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the candidate not sending me a message. One day was like, "Wow, he was not gonna take it," and like, so I've been there. Like, and I don't
Mm.
think there's a shortcut, right? So you need to see so many scenarios kind of go
Mm-hmm.
through to really understand. I think like where you're valuable in the end, and like the value, at least from my perception. By the way, everything I say is like it's based on 4 years of experience, right? So I don't know much, but everything that I perceive is like I'm just here to save people's time and
Mm.
mine first. Like I value mine more than anyone's, and so I will make sure that we don't get to an offer unless you will take it. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's just the way I want to look at things. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I guess just because we've talked about this now, how would you save a candidate's time? Like, what is the strategy beyond this
Mm.
point?
Yeah, I'm always gonna ask people why they want to apply for the job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but really deeply because oh, it's challenging. What does that mean? Like challenging which terms? Like why? And usually same with the client as well. I will like, hey, if you interview this person, like, can you already assume that you're ready to make an offer? Like, if the first interview goes well, like, you know, can we assume you're gonna make an offer? And so I try to kind of really close the gaps as fast as possible. But yeah, it really comes down like as you can see it, right? Like you tell the candidate, hey, you passed the first interview. How do you feel? Oh, I'm happy. Okay, tell me more. Like, why are you happy? Like, are you happy for each interview that you're passing the same way? Is that one a priority to you? Um, like I'm really obsessed by pulling people out of the process as soon as I can. That's it. That's really it, honestly.
Has anyone ever gotten upset at you for pulling too hard and
Yeah, but yeah, man, I pissed a lot of people off. And I'm, yeah, but that's fine. It's because some people have their agenda, but I have mine, right? I'm here to save my time, and they probably
maybe your
want
client's
several
time
offers on the
too?
table. Exactly, right? So sometimes it's just making clear to the candidate, like, hey, I get what you're trying to do, but this is not good for me, right? So trying to get several offers on the table, like, hey, guess what? You can bluff about fake offers as well and save my time, right?
Yeah, and the client's time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think with Japanese candidates, it sometimes clashes a little bit more in that sense. But yeah.
But you're making placements. It's working out,
Yeah,
and you're
exactly. The
saving
people I
everyone's
place
time.
are happy, you know. I'm sure I left a lot of money on the table. You know, I had probably to change my personality a bit more, and I'll place more certain type of people. But yeah, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
it's fine. Like,
screw it.
yeah, exactly.
So outside of, I guess, pivoting a little bit outside of recruitment, what else are you up to? I'm curious. I mean, business-wise as well, but also like hobbies or things that you just enjoy doing outside of the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a father. My little daughter is 2 years old. You know,
Nice.
I have wife. I'm very much a family man. Like, all the little free time that I have is for the family. So I'm pretty much a boring person when it comes to hobbies, man. I read a lot, like crazy amount of reading, crazy amount of podcasts. Studying, I really enjoy studying somehow. Business, I really enjoy studying business. These days, you know, social media, like really understanding why I should do it, and then yeah, just everything that I will do, I really want to do it very deeply. So I will read like a crazy amount of stuff about. Like now, the podcasting is I literally study, you know, the podcasts that I enjoy. I'm trying to figure out why I listen to it, and I'm just really into those things. Finance as well. Like I'm very into investing, knowing where I put my money. But yeah, all the free time otherwise is playing with my kid. You know, taking my family out. I call my mom every day, you know, for 30 minutes a day at least. I call my sister now that I'm working with her. I call my nieces. I'm extremely close to my family. And yeah, so I go to the gym every morning. I work out every day. Yeah, but other than that, just yeah, I love studying, man, somehow. Which is crazy. I'm a dropout. I tried to quit school at 17. My father pushed me back into it, but eventually at 20 I got out again. And now I love studying. I really enjoy learning on my own and from people. You know.
What do you think changed?
So basically when I was 21, to give you context, like I studied economics until I was 17 in high school. And I dropped out at 17. I was telling my father, I'm like, hey, I don't need school. I'm going to be fine. And my father was really furious. He pushed me back into it. And eventually I graduated from high school. And then somehow someone told me that, you know, college will be good for me. So I tried college and I went to study marketing. And that went horribly wrong. Just terrible, man. I wasted so much time. I was very, you know, party guy, drinking a lot, like, you know, drugs and stuff. Like very, very deep into it. And eventually, I tried to change every 2-3 weeks. I was like, I'm gonna quit this. I'm gonna do this, and nothing happens, you know. And I just remember one friend telling me, "Hey, don't worry. Like, you don't have to change. People will always like you the way you are." But that person was really in big troubles, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, is that a standard?" And I just remember like hating what I was becoming, and to the point where I asked my parents, like, "What kind of person do you think I will become?" You know, and how do you look at me right now? Like, what do you feel when you look at me? And it didn't sound good, man. It was pretty bad, actually.
Wow.
Even though I was not a bad person, you know, like but I mean, the definition of who I was pretty shitty. So I'm like, okay, just leave, and I took all my savings. I started looking onto the internet what to do, and everyone was recommending to live abroad. So I went to Canada basically, and then I arrived in Canada, and I was surrounded by a lot of people who didn't have the like. I come from a good family. My parents love each other. I have a sister who's pretty successful at school. I have pretty much everything to not be the shitty person that I am at that point, right? And I arrive in Canada, I'm like surrounded by all those people who have crazy stories, man. They did grind, they know where they're going. And I start feeling so bad about myself. Like, oh my God, I'm such a spoiled piece of, like really understanding that, wow, this is bad. And then just rebuilding, like I start kind of really asking people. One of the things I keep asking people is like, what do you think of me if I tell you my story? And everyone's like, man, you're spoiled, you're just spoiled. You don't know what hard work means. And then I was like, okay, what does hard work mean to you? And just asking people to judge me, because I got into a position where I started lying to myself a lot. Like, because, yeah, you have to, right? At some point, like, if you're not doing the right things. And that really helped me to change. I met my wife then. I wanted to date her, and she was rejecting me all the time. I was like, man, screw this. I really like this girl. And she was keep telling, like, she was really rejecting me for the fact. She's like, yeah, you're a cool guy, but you're definitely a loser, like.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was painful. And she was very hardworking, very respected, and she didn't come across as, the cool kid, but she was hardworking, and I found that very kind of attractive. And from there on, man, I started like being, okay, I don't know anything about this. YouTube, spend hours on YouTube and talk to people, and gratitude and being humble. And I know it sounds a bit like, cringe, but
buzzword, yeah.
Yeah, but that's it, right? Like understanding that you're very lucky and privileged, and then like just be humble and assume you don't know anything, because that's it, man.
Wow.
Really.
I mean, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea that your life story, because we kind of started at the bottom and then we went to where you are now. But it sounds like you were kind of more of a U shape. You're coming from all of this, and then you had this kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas you weren't kind of born into that. You've kind of put yourself in a lot of ways into that position to kind of struggle and have to improve your character, and it shows, I guess, that you've now come out the other side of that. So that's brilliant. I guess, thank you. I'm curious for the future of Innohyve and what you need from it. What kind of people would you be interested to hire? I don't know if you're hiring at the moment, but like, what kind of people would mesh well with you and the culture that you're trying to build there?
Yeah. So we're 4 people, literally only me and one person in India working with us, amazing person. Like, she's so experienced as a recruiter. But the rest of the people that I'm surrounded by have no recruitment experience. And I really like it. Because they just give me this different perspective. If I can find another person like Wannes who just gets shit done, and
I want a Wannes.
Yeah, like get me another Wannes, honestly,
awesome.
that's really what it is. Because like I love people who just want to feel uncomfortable. And it's very hard to hire, like, even for me. Like, I was interviewing a few people 2-3 weeks ago for this marketing role that we have. And in the middle of the meeting with someone, I'm like, man, I clearly don't know what I'm looking for, And I was like apologizing to that lady, because I was like, hey, I don't know actually, like, because we do so much new things. Like 2 months ago, we didn't know we were going to start a podcast. And then my crazy brain is like all in on the podcast. Like, I want to be Joe Rogan now. I want to be Lex Fridman. And I think it's very hard for people to follow that, like, because I am pretty crazy when it comes to it. And Wannes is really, really good at it. Like, he knows how to kind of tell me, hey, you're crazy, but here's what we can do right now. And but every day we do stuff that we generally don't know what we're doing, like, and so that's gonna be really hard to find, I think.
Yeah, it can be a lot of fun though.
It is fun. I think we look for people who love to connect and learn from people. And yeah, but I mean, if there's a top biller out there who wants to help me build the recruitment business, give me a call as well, So I meet 5 to 6 people a day, every day.
Wow.
And yeah, so
Related to, I mean, do you have a strategy behind it, or is it purely just about meeting anyone that you can, or are they, who are those people?
yeah, that's the thing. I'm extremely strategic. Every person that I meet, I kind of do it with a reason. But because I do
Mm.
so many things, there's just so many reasons now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, most of it will be right now around social media and learning from people who are doing cool stuff out there,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to be useful. Like I have this huge network that I mean, huge network again in the frame of been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and I just want to make it like something useful to other people
Mm.
because that just adds to my network, and that's just so
Kind of snowball effect.
yeah, networker first, job filler second kind of thing, right? Like I
Mm.
so yeah, but we're always looking to if we can hire, we will hire, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not in a rush. Like I think a lot of people get into recruitment, starting their company, like they want to build this huge team and more builders and stuff, and our goal is literally to keep it under 6 people, regardless of
Mm.
the billings, regardless like we really wanted to be that company who does like more billing than most, but with only 5 6 people. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, a bit of a different ambition, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice. Well, I want to kind of wrap this up. But is there anything else, I guess, any other message that you want to send to maybe some young recruiters out there, or anyone else that might be listening?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like to give tips to people because again, I don't know much. Like in the end, right? It's been only a couple of years, but
Hmm.
I I, I think the reason I'm doing well so far in this industry is because I genuinely love it. I really love sales. I love recruitment. I love what it all gives, and I meet a lot of people who you ask them twice why they do it. Like the first why is going to be pretty simple. It's like the sales pitch they got from their manager. But the second one is very very like there's not much in there.
Hmm.
I think if the people were going a little bit deeper, they will be more successful because
Hmm.
the number of people, for example, that start to work on an industry that they clearly don't care about, but just because someone told them it was a hot desk, and it takes them a year and a half to realize they hate it. It takes them another year and a half to realize they're never gonna make it. Boom, you just wasted 2 3 years of your life.
Hmm.
And so I will recommend people to really really study the market they're getting into
Hmm.
deeply and find ways to win from it, even if you fail at billing. Like I love
Hmm.
tech. I always loved tech, and I got into that whole startup ecosystem because now I can be a sales dev for those companies, or I can do a lot of other things for those companies that I'm surrounded by.
Hmm.
But a lot of people don't think about that. There's a waste of energy, like so
Hmm.
much. And I meet so many recruiters, man. Like that's like recruiters are hated, right? But I meet so many recruiters that are I never really met like a real like asshole recruiter, right? Like they use just people who are struggling to keep up with the KPIs and they lose track of why they do it.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think yeah, that's probably one of the reasons I left, the agency side because surrounded by people who are generally really good people, but they don't really question much of why they do it. And
Hmm.
so I will recommend that.
Yeah, and I mean that's great advice. I think that's why I have a job, to be
Yeah.
honest. It's because of people like this that are kind of have joined it for maybe one reason, and then they've kind of overstayed their own
Mm.
welcome in some ways. Just to tack on to your point of industry, I was in banking and finance, and
Yeah.
I was basically not interested at all. That was the last thing I could
Yeah.
possibly be asked to learn about. But when I joined, it didn't matter that much to me what the industry was because my goal was just to make money. My goal
Yeah.
was to like be successful, and I don't even think that it was the wrong goal. I think at the time, like I
No.
really wanted to kind of buy my freedom and have freedom
Yeah.
of time and money, and that's what I've achieved, at least very temporarily now. It's
Yeah.
given me this break, but so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
in terms of industry, if I were to go back, I would definitely be keen to do one that I'm interested in, but I don't
Mm.
regret doing one that I wasn't interested in because at the
Yeah.
time, for the first couple of years, I loved just the fact that I was doing well and I was in a place where I knew I could succeed. Maybe because other people didn't want to be there because they were focused on some interesting, all the startups that are doing cool
Yeah.
robotics and AI that's the future, and all
Yeah.
of these people that are doing insurance, actuaries or banking, and it's kind of maybe less interesting to the average
Yeah.
person. But again, the riches might be in those niches as well because they're less maybe interesting or less of a future. So depending on your priorities, yeah, definitely. If you want to build that kind of future and diversify, then having that long-term vision of where can I go
Yeah.
from here is key. And then I would say if you have another goal in mind, then go with that one and just be able to reevaluate if
What made
it
you
changes.
successful? Like, because I feel it, I have a hard time imagining being successful in something that I don't enjoy doing. Like in terms of like the curiosity aspect of things, like how
Hmm.
just the drive of the money, like that helps you to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just I was just really driven by success. Like I was an English teacher for 2 years and
Mm.
I felt like even if I was giving my all, I would never get rewarded for it. Maybe in 15 years someone will call me and say like, "Hey, I I decided to study abroad because of you." Probably not. Like
Yeah.
it's I wanted to see a little bit more of like the rewards for my actions and feel like I'd kind of made it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like purely like money, but that was kind of how I could measure my success, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to just, yeah, make a lot of money. Curiosity wise, I mean, I wasn't so interested in actually talking about what banking was, although
Mm.
in general I'm curious. So I did like ask questions to try to figure these things out, but I quickly realized that
Yeah.
I did not
Yeah.
care. So more so
Yeah.
to me, it was about being an expert. It was about now I'm the
Mm.
go-to person. I memorized every single person in every team in every company, and I could tell you even now, like to some degree, like who the managers are or some people on their
Yeah.
team, and having that, like studying that aspect of it, like the people that were there.
Yeah.
I think that's where my curiosity was kind of driven into, and then that
Mm.
transitioned to um, I built out a new area as well that was a little bit
Right.
more interesting, like from operations to business management. They were a little bit more kind of turned on people, and I found it was more engaging to talk to. And then from there was management.
Yeah.
So I guess that was kind of what filled up my curiosity bucket for a
Yeah.
while and
Yeah.
allowed me to be motivated. And then when that left, like there was a hole in the bucket, I guess, when there was nothing left to do,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
tap kind of turned off, and I was like, I realized a bit too late, like you said. It took me almost a year of really feeling like I'm not being challenged, I'm not learning
Yeah.
anything, and then I decided I really need to leave. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
similar
mean,
story.
yeah. No. Like, I think again, like, there's a lot of things that I got very, very lucky with as well. To be fair with you, like choosing my
Mm,
industry and spot on right away, the right one. I got
mm,
super lucky, man. Like, but the money drive was, I mean, it still is. That's the thing.
mm-hmm.
I also don't want to be like, oh, well, Axel is all about like, no, no. I'm very, very hungry when it comes to money. I want to retire in three years. Like, I have literally like a counter on this. And when I say
Whoa.
retired, I'm a workaholic, so I'm not gonna stop really
Yeah.
doing stuff. But like, I want to be, able to say, okay, I take a year off and go in
Mm,
somewhere with my family, and I can do it.
mm,
So the drive is still very much there. And
mm-hmm.
recruitment is crazy, man. Like, it's like that's the thing as well. I love this industry. I love this job because what it can give you is insane. It's really
Yeah.
insane. And I wish people saw it more for that. Like, there's a number of
Mm,
recruiters that I meet that are like, oh, they will down talk recruitment like it's below them, and like, oh, I
mm-hmm.
only do this for now, or I don't see myself doing recruitment. Man, fall in love with it for real. If you do it really, really well
Yeah.
and with full passion, because
Mm,
it's a good bet. I genuinely feel about it
mm-hmm.
like it's a good bet to take. So yeah,
For
I love
sure.
recruitment. I love it.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. I didn't always love it. It was definitely an up and down relationship, but the times that I was loving it, I definitely did better and I was happier too. So that's
Yeah.
one of the
Which
missions, I
areas did you
guess.
dislike? Which areas did you dislike specifically?
Which areas? Honestly, just the repetition of it all. Like I didn't like I just knew generally what I was going to be doing. Like the
Yeah.
interesting thing was when it was all over the place and there's just so many things going on, and I didn't like when I had no deals and I have to like start over from scratch, and obviously everyone hates that part.
Yeah.
That's what differentiates the people who make it from who don't, right? But
Yeah.
eventually restarting that cycle was just kind of annoying. I was like, okay, I have to be following up with all these people again and again, and I wasn't
Yeah.
able to really do it creatively because I didn't have the kind of yo-yo, like that, extra
Mm,
space to think about, okay, maybe I could try this and it might work. And I was just
yeah.
like, I need to do what's going to make the money now. And I think that was really a short-term
Yeah.
mindset that is sometimes encouraged, right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
wasn't my
that's the
favorite.
thing. Thing is, like, I get a lot of people asking me if it's harder in the agency or by myself now, and I
Mm,
generally mean it when I say it's way easier now
it's
because I have a
easier.
lot more time to think. Yeah, like
Mm,
you have time to think, and
mm-hmm.
I think people really undervalue that kind of quality time of thinking
Yeah.
because it's so easy to get caught into that constant chasing the next deal, and it's like you just
Mm-hmm.
take a step back and evaluate yourself on a year, But here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, your manager won't allow you to do that, right? Because they have their
Yeah.
targets. And again, nothing wrong against managers, right? Like, but
Mm,
it's a lot easier, man. Like running my own little thing here is so much
mm-hmm.
easier. I feel less stressed now than I was in an agency, which is crazy because
Mm.
everyone thinks it's the opposite. And I'm like, no, man, it's easy. Like, I mean, not easy. It's hard work, but hard work it has to be anyway. But I really enjoy spending time thinking on the creative side of things because I
Mm.
feel like that's where most people can't. They literally can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And that's where you can differentiate, which is exactly what you're doing with these
yeah.
events, with the podcast, and it's exciting to see where it will all
Thanks,
be
man.
going. Thank you for coming on this. It's great
Thank
to
you.
speak
It's
with
fun.
you.
Yeah, likewise,
Um,
man. We'll catch up. I mean, let me know if how I can help. And yeah,
for
a
sure.
lot of
I'll
fun. I'll be at
see
your
you
event,
Friday.
I think. Yeah, exactly. I'll be there.
Okay. Awesome,
So
man.
awesome.
Cool.
Cheers, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Likewise.
Cheers.